Hello, wide open. I about said wide open again. I got Hunter on my mind. Hello, Abnormal Investigations. It's good to talk to you all tonight. And I've got another encounter for you. We've been busy burning off the pasture today, so if you want to check that out, that'll be on our Wide Open Adventures channel. But I want to thank you guys for all the help in bringing Hunter home. He will be home soon. God has given us victory over this, and I ask you all to pray and stand on this in agreement with us. Let's get on to the encounter. This happened when I was about 11 years old. I happened to have this unexplained encounter with the so-called Dogman. Our dad took me and my younger brother on a hunting camp in Texas a few years back, and I said before I was 11. He picked us up from our mother's house around 10 p.m., took us about 2.5 hours to get to the ranch, and our grandpa and our older brother were already waiting for us by our grandpa's tent. The next days come along with our dad had woken up about 5 in the morning to get us ready for the deer hunting. He had walked us to one of the blinds, left me and my little brother at one while he took my older brother with him to another good, probably mile or so from ours. Our grandpa had his blind away from me and my youngest brother's blind to make sure we didn't do anything stupid as kids would do. A few hours went by and my little brother had fallen asleep, and I was looking at the feeders around 8 as I saw a 10-point buck emerge from the brush. I nudged my brother awake. As he slowly woke up, I saw his face light up with joy. He reached for my rifle, but I carefully pushed his hand away. He whispered, "What are you doing? We have a straight shot." I pointed back to the feeder where there were 2 does near the buck. My little brother slumped down in his chair, tears in his eyes. Looking at him, I sighed and reached for my rifle, even though my father had told me, "Don't waste a shot unless you have a clear one." I ignored it, and I saw my little brother so heartbroken once I told him we couldn't land that buck. I steadied my rifle and made sure I was sighted in. Minutes passed by, but it felt like an eternity. I took my shot, and it landed right on the buck's shoulder. My little brother had been watching the whole thing. It had a great effect on him. More hours passed. It was already late evening. We were ready to step out of the blind when I heard rustling in front of the blind. Even though I had already landed a buck, I wanted to land another, being, the hunter that I am, and wanting to show off. It was already late, and the sun had gone down, and I could barely make out the feeder, let alone whatever was in the weeds. I took my aim and held my breath. Looking into that scope was the worst thing I could ever do. My brother had grabbed a flashlight and shone it out into the darkness, and it landed on that thing. It had the head, and what I would say would be a perfect German Shepherd's head. But it had the body of kind of like somebody that would work out or an athlete. Not overly built, but you could tell was in very lean condition. It snapped its head right in our direction. I thought it was just a dog. Just a dog? It ran straight to our blind, and I heard a loud thud against the walls. Yeah, talk about fear setting in. Fear had set in with my little brother and me. Then the thing I feared the most had come true. I look up at the blind window. The thing I regret the most. It had black fur covering its upper body, its teeth bearing yellowish canine teeth covered in a substance that looked like, blood. The loud footsteps circled us faster and faster. Then out of nowhere they stopped, but God only knew what was in for. The door handle shook violently, faster and more aggressively by the second. I had taken my rifle off of safety. Aiming at the door with my free hand, I put my little brother behind me. As the door was pried open, it was my grandpa. He had heard my little brother screaming. He had left his blind, rifle in hand, to see what had happened. He was checking on us. He took us out of our blind, and he ran with us to our father's blinds. He told my father that my little brother had screamed after asking what happened. My little brother just muttered, "A wolf walking on 2 legs." We went back to the camp, and that night was the worst to come. Around 3 in the morning, I was awoken by a loud, menacing howling. I stood up in bed, and I peered out through the blinds. I saw the outline of a humanoid at the tree line. I ducked under my covers. Tears ran my eyes. I even might have cried a little. That this wasn't real. This had to be a dream. Oh, how wrong I was. I heard loud, but quick footsteps running straight toward my window. Somehow, I gathered the courage to peek out the window. I know I've said this before, but I prayed to any god that this thing would break through that window, that I would at least have protection. Its hands, yes, hands, ended in long black claws. Its red, piercing eyes staring at me right through my window. The breath hitting the window as it fogged up and then unfogged. The next day, I went back to my blind. I didn't want to go because I had fell asleep after last night. What had happened, or did I pass out? But I knew the next day my dad would want me to go to the blind. So, after a lot of talking and debating, my dad got me to go with him and my brother and my grandpa. And in case you're wondering where the buck was at, well, yeah, we found the buck. Its innards were everywhere. Its legs were broken and twisted in no way an animal could do. And the weird thing was, its antlers were chewed on beyond recognition. After that day, we had never returned to that ranch. It's an interesting story, and I did catch a few things in the story that made me think. First of all, y'all know that I'm a gun safety fanatic. Don't ever aim your weapon at something in the dark if you don't know what it is and you can't identify what it is. And never use your scope as a pair of binoculars to try to look at something, because remember, where your scope's looking, it's also where your muzzle's aimed. Other than that, finding the creature, or I should say the deer, in that kind of shape, yeah, that wouldn't be a normal animal that would do that. But the thing I found most intriguing is a canine in particular. They love deer antlers. They will eat them. So I do believe what you saw was a canine in nature, probably a bipedal canine creature. And I would say it probably did eat the horns, because that is one of their favorite things. And I think that what you had was an encounter with some people would call it a dogman, some people would call it a werewolf. I'm not sure what I would call it. Sometimes I think I even feel better just calling it a upright canine, maybe bipedal creature, something like that. But yeah, I want to thank you for sharing your story. And of course, when we're out deer hunting, we want to be careful, because when we do deer hunt, we wear scents that are meant to attract animals. So we could actually be attracting these things to us while we hunt. So you want to be extra vigilant, in the woods, because you are trying to get things to come up to you. And what comes up to you may not be what you want to come up to you. So keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And thank you all so very much for everything you do. It means so much to me just for you all to watch these and to smash that like button. That like button means so much, because I know that y'all are enjoying my content. And I'll keep putting it out as long as you guys enjoy it. So thank you very much, guys. And we'll see you on the next one.